Welcome to Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Straczynski. Thank you so much for joining us on episode number 115 of Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today's guest is a poker player, a gamer, and a PokerStars ambassador. Georgina James, otherwise known as DJ Reggie, is a Twitch streamer par excellence and an online poker primarily, but she recently won her first Spady trophy at a live event, the PCA in the Bahamas. With a magnetic personality, thousands of followers on social media channels, and a prosperous poker career yet to stretch in front of her, we're excited to have her on the show to get to know her a little better. GJ, welcome to the Cards Chat podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, Robbie, and happy to be here.
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to speak with you. We did recently meet at that PokerStars event, but sort of like, ships passing in the night. So we never really got a chance to talk. And I'm happy we get a chance to rectify that right now.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. And, your accent, the room decor doesn't give it away for those watching. If you're not listening, it's beautiful. Room decor. You can't necessarily tell where you are, but the accent gives a little bit of a clue. Somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, I'm from the UK, based in Cardiff in Wales.
In Cardiff in Wales. Lovely. I haven't heard much of the Welsh accent, but it's very endearing. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of it. Let's start with your first ever live poker tournament victory. It came on a really special day for you at the PCA. You won the $330 buy-in women's event for $6,500. You looked really happy in that winner's picture. What did it feel like to win that trophy?
I was really happy to win, of course. I mean, it's always great when you win, right? Sure. I think it just meant a little bit more because I had so many people on the rail, and just kind of the circumstances leading up to the win and getting that trophy, because I've been playing for so long over the last 2 days as well. It's my first ever live tournament win too, and to do it in the Bahamas at the PCA was pretty special.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Definitely a wonderful place, and nothing like that first time. When you were four-handed, you had 3 opponents, all from Canada. Yes. Wondering, is there a little bit of a partisan feeling of like, oh, I got to win it for Wales or something like that, or is it just really player to player, to combat at the felt?
Yeah, I knew that all 3 of my opponents at that point were Canadian, but it definitely wasn't any particular sort of national pride that made me want to win more. At the final table, all the ladies were super friendly. They were really nice and very chatty all day. So I was pretty happy.
Right. Well, it's funny. It's funny you say exactly that. And of course, Canadians are very, very friendly. That's what they're known for. It's in their blood, along with maple syrup. And, it's often said that, ladies tournaments really do have tends to be much more friendlier and atmosphere than, open tournaments.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, though, as you get closer and closer, you're down to the final table, down to the final 4, does that sort of fade away a little bit and there's a little bit more competition, or that really does last all the way till heads up?
I mean, I think the table was still pretty friendly and pretty chatty at that point, but you could kind of tell that the little bit of seriousness, a little bit of intensity took over, because everyone still wants to win, and you're so close at that point when you get to the FT. So I think the table was still friendly, but maybe just a little bit less lively, if you will, in terms of all the banter and the chatter at that point. But the thing is as well, it was also quite late at night, so everyone's a little bit tired as well at this point. So yeah, it was a mix of both.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's not maybe your first live win, but obviously not your first win ever, not your first final table or anything. Most of that and all of that had basically been online, though. So how do you feel your online experience helped you specifically at this table, or was it just a completely different animal?
I do think playing online kind of helps when you're playing live. Like you say, it's a position that I've been in before in some cases, particularly in the women's events that I did quite well during WCOOP in. I think at this point it was it wasn't necessarily the online experience that made me comfortable. I think it was the fact that we've been playing for so long. I kind of settled into the role at the table. I was kind of aware of all the other people that I was playing against, and I felt over time and just more practice from playing live. I just was more focused at the table, and I think I felt confident at this point, which is kind of nice. I don't always feel that confident at a live table when I don't have that much experience.
Right. Well, having a big stack definitely helps. You have a little bit more of a comfort zone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, women's events, they get talked about a lot. Obviously a great tool, a great way to bring more women into the game. We know there aren't necessarily, certainly not one-to-one, men and women balance. And, for a very long time, we're always trying to attract more women players to the game. I'm wondering, do you see it even as an issue that needs rectifying? And if so, then what would your sort of, if you could make a magic wand, how would you, go about attracting more women to the table? Or it just sort of is what it is, and those who play, great, and those who choose not to play, no?
I do think it's like saying it as an issue sounds kind of strange, but I do think it would be great to have more women in the game. I do think the numbers are lower than they should be, than they could be, in terms of like percentages and stuff, because I know that a poker doesn't necessarily appeal to a lot of women. I think it's an option that many just don't even consider, be it as a hobby or as a career, because it's just not something that you're ever exposed to or necessarily marketed at from that perspective. So yeah, a lot of my friends who I think could be good at poker, could enjoy poker, would probably never even consider it. Like, even if they go on a night out and they come across a casino, they wouldn't even look at going in, if that makes sense. Like, it's not an option in their mind. So I think we could do a lot better to bring women into the game. In terms of what sort of a magic or miracle formula to do that, I don't really have a good answer. I think if there was a really good answer, someone would have done something about it by now.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because it's been so long, and it's been a topic of discussion in the poker world that's been running for just an incredibly long time. And it almost feels like if there was a really, really miracle solution to combat this, that it would have happened. I think a few of the things that like especially live events and things could do to help with women's events, to help women sort of feel more comfortable, are things like making sure they have like a zero tolerance for things like abuse at the tables and things like that. Just making sure that there's a hard line, and then people know that there's a hard line, knowing that the dealers and the floor staff and the team that run the event are available to speak to. Because I think a lot of the time when these things happen, you don't necessarily have full trust that someone's going to do something about it, if that makes sense. And when you aren't really quite sure who to turn to, who to speak to, where to go for help, it's kind of almost hard to speak up, and you're like, oh well, it's just another one of those things we have to put up with, being a woman in poker. Sure. So I think knowing that there's support there, like making sure that the women who come play know that there's support there, know that there's people to speak to, know where to go and how to find that. I think that would be really helpful, because it's not always the easiest to know when you go to an event that you're unfamiliar with and you don't know the people at.
Right. It's a good recommendation. I want to also sort of like interject, like I think that they always say like 5 to 6% of the playing population in live events is women. One thing we're trying to do here on the Cards Chat podcast, trying to get as much representation as we can. I'm very proud to say, maintained a good 25% rate of our guests have been women, and we're trying to make sure we get that exposure. And, I will admit as well, it's almost like a go-to question. Oh, as a woman, you got to ask the women question. And, it is a little bit tried, and, I will admit to that. But at the same time, I do think that by continuing to bring it up, especially among with the more prominent female members of the poker community, the message does get through. You hear it often enough, then, and then you see these pictures of women winning trophies. Like, that is a good thing, generally speaking. And, we are, I think, at least over the last couple of years, seeing an increase in the numbers. And I think that's, overall a good thing. So I will apologize for the question, but it is kind of an obligation to ask, so that's the women's thing. I do have to ask this one I don't normally ask, the Welsh poker scene. I'm not aware of one.
Right.
What can you tell us about the poker scene in Wales besides on PokerStars and online?
I mean, I'm not aware of a particularly strong Welsh poker scene myself either. So Cardiff, where I'm based, is the biggest city in Wales, and then you've also got Swansea, which is not too far away as well. There are like casinos and card rooms near where I live, but I don't think it's necessarily particularly thriving scene, if you will. Okay. And I know that there's I think like a lot of people run sort of home games and things like that here. But I don't think it's particularly busy. You'd probably have to move to England if you wanted more action, if you will.
Fair. Okay. And for the geographically challenged among us, myself being one of them, I know it's in the United Kingdom, but if you were to want to travel from Cardiff to London, how long would that take by rail or car?
So I usually take the train, and it's like 2 hours, basically. Okay. A little bit longer door to door for me, but it's Cardiff to London is around 2 hours.
Okay, so if you really want to get a good game going, it's not too far away for you.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Okay. You did cash twice on the live circuit last year in 2022.
Yes.
In England at the EPT, at the UK IPT events. And one of them in particular that I want to sort of open up here, that was in an 8-game mix event. Mixed games, it's a relatively small niche within poker, but everyone who knows me knows that I love them. Tell us a little bit about your fondness for the mix.
Yeah, so my kind of fondness and love for the mixed games really stems from having to work with Mason Pye. He's also a streamer and a former Stars ambassador. But we worked really close together when at the very beginning. We sort of joined the PokerStars team at the same time, and his entire brand is the mixed games movement. So he absolutely loves mixed games. It's basically the only thing he plays if he can help it. And when we stream together, we'd often play the same tables because I think it makes for a better viewing experience to be able to rail each other, sweat the games. So I kind of got involved in the mixed games because of him, because he played so many, learned a lot from his stream, and then I've just kind of fallen in love with those games, and I play them all the time. I really enjoy them, and I think I would love to do more for mixed games as well, not just sort of women in poker, but to help promote the mixed games and see more people getting involved in those.
Oh, good stuff. Well, obviously, Stars is, the best of my knowledge, the one place where you can play the whole 8-game mix online. So it's definitely a good place to hone and practice your game. A good fondness for the Badoogie. That's always a fun one as well. And I mentioned, you and I had met at the Bahamas. We did play in that same event, the $550 horse event. I wrote an article about my experience. I had a really good time. For me, it's much more of a one-off. I don't get to play them as often as I do like. I'm curious what your experience was like in the event. Some folks, it's not like a 10K championship event, but to me, it's a pretty, I feel like I knew half the field, some known names and stuff. What's a 550 horse in the Bahamas like for you?
Yeah, it was really good fun. When I sat down the table, I sort of looked around because I regged. I think there was only maybe 10 of us playing at this point. And I saw a few familiar faces that I'd seen at the other EPT stops playing. And then there were some people that I didn't necessarily recognize, but I don't know a lot of the American Canadian players. And then I sat down for a while, started playing for a while, and then Greg Raymer comes and sits and registers and sits in the seat right next to me, which is cool. He was very friendly. We had a really great chat, and he was a fun character to have at the table, and it was great to meet him and chat to him. And I got very lucky. I don't know. I don't know if this is being sort of recorded video-wise as well, but it is. I actually managed to knock him out of the tournament and gain his bounty. So he in fact gave me
Oh, the fossil.
One of his fossils as well, for taking him out in that one, which is pretty cool. So I didn't win a trophy or anything, but I think that kind of counts as a neat little souvenir.
I would say so. Just to be clear, this was not a bounty event, but Greg does award the fossil to anyone who eliminates him. If you want to learn more about Greg, he was our guest on episode number 43 here on the Cards Chat podcast. Definitely a wonderful person in general, great poker player, and someone fun to sit next to. What's your opinion about the level of competition and sort of just the overall ambiance of play in a live mixed event versus a live hold'em event?
I think the mixed games tend to feel a lot friendlier, kind of a lot cozier in general. And I almost feel like I've played enough of them now at the EPT stops that you kind of see familiar faces, you recognize a few people, so you almost have a bit of a silent rapport with these people, even if you haven't necessarily spoken to them before or played against them before. You recognize each other. You sort of glance like, okay, we're both mixed game fans. It's cool, sort of thing. But yeah, I always enjoy them, and quite often, it's quite often that you get to see people at the table that you know, and it feels almost a little bit less serious somehow, because when you sit at a hold'em table, everyone. It feels a little bit more intense somehow, I think.
Got it. On the strategy side of things, do you approach it the same way, or would you say that there are some tangible differences to navigating your way towards victory in a mixed game tournament versus a hold'em tournament?
I think in mixed games, you almost have to pay extra attention just to how the game is flowing, just because you have to remember what game it is for a start, and then you've got games with the flop turn river, but some games are sub games, some games are draw games, and when it's changing so fast, and you have to remember what the limits are, what the bets are at every stage. I think you just require that little bit of extra focus to make sure you're paying attention to what's happening, which game you're playing, who your opponents are, and things like that.
Yeah, I would confirm that from the few mixed game tournaments I've played. I definitely agree that that's an important thing. And I'll put the plug in there because it's so damn good. I used it myself. The PokerStars live app. It's like the whole brand. It's super cool. And when you're playing at those, no one paid me to say this or anything. But just the fact that you have all of that information really there in your hand, you don't need to go searching for where the screen is and where the blinds are, all that kind of stuff. And you could also hand and mob all your opponents. Oh, this GJ Reggie, what's she done? That's that sort of thing. So it's definitely a very cool thing. Kudos to the developers on that one. You stream poker on Twitch, where 14,000 plus fans, they love your style. Recently, you did say, though, you felt a little conflicted because you enjoy it, but there's so many platforms that you have to update. You have to update Twitter and have to update Instagram. As a content creator, how do you decide what to prioritize as far as where your focus should be on the social media?
I honestly think it's really hard. I don't really consider myself a natural social media person when it comes to sharing a lot of these things. So for me personally, I've got Twitter and Instagram are the two that I focus on in terms of outputting content, if you will. But Discord, I don't know if you're super familiar with it. Discord is like my internet home, and probably where I spend the most time when I'm online. I'm really lucky to have cultivated a really nice community in there where people are very active. People chat all the time about all sorts, not just poker. And I spend a lot of my time just always hanging out and chatting to people in there. So Discord definitely takes up most of my energy in terms of social media, outside of the obviously actual physical streaming. And then I would love to be better at Twitter and Instagram, to be honest. I don't really know why I've sort of ended up focusing that way. That's kind of naturally just what I lent towards. I do wish I was sort of a more prolific photographer, if you will, and able to update with like videos and pictures on Instagram, because I know people really enjoy following those, and it's something that, especially at live events, I'm trying harder to work on.
Sure. Well, different strokes for different folks, and I know myself, and I know of Discord. I know what it is, but not necessarily that active, on the servers, but it's important to cultivate the audience wherever it feels most natural to you. So like, what do you enjoy most about engaging directly with your fans and your audience?
It just feels like a very relaxed environment to do it in, because it feels like there's just like less pressure. There always feels like there's so much pressure on Instagram to take the best pictures, to film the best videos, to edit it, to make it look incredibly appealing. And with Twitter, it always feels like sometimes that there's this sort of pressure to farm engagement and likes and comments and this, that, and the other. Whereas Discord just feels like you're having a prolonged conversation, right? It feels a lot more casual, a lot more natural, and I prefer that.
You're turning me on to that. I think that's I think I should do a little bit more. No, you're making a great case. It's a very good point. All right. Well, anyone who plays poker or any game for that matter obviously wants to win, and that's something that have big passion for. You want to succeed, be the best at the games. But let's go, sort of back to your start of playing games in general. It's not just poker. You like all sorts of games. What's the first game you can remember saying, "Oh, this is cool. I want to be the best at that"?
I'm not really sure. First game. I mean, I've played video games pretty much my whole life, from just like a Game Boy playing like Tetris and stuff to like PlayStation games now. First game, I don't know. I've always loved like puzzles, logic puzzles, like solving problems, things like, I don't know, even things like Sudokus or crosswords or whatever it was, like probably something like really, really basic. But yeah, like the Sudokus and things and number puzzles like that are something that I've always enjoyed since I was a child, and I think that's sort of carried through now.
And so, lots of puzzles, especially Sudoku, sometimes that, I get it, the different parts of your brain are active. It can definitely challenge the mind. Sometimes you don't win, though. Sometimes it's just like, I can't figure this out. How do you deal with that? How do you sort of overcome it and, move on to the next one or break through and eventually solve the puzzle?
I mean, if I was going to do one right now and I got really, really stuck, I would probably just take a break and then do it again tomorrow, if that makes sense. I usually think, because sometimes you get so stuck and frustrated in your own head. You're like so focused in on the one thing that you can't solve that you sort of miss the rest of the bigger picture. So if you kind of take a bit of a breather, forget about exactly what the puzzle in front of you is gone, and then come back to it tomorrow, you're like, oh wait, I can't believe I didn't see that, kind of thing. I think that's probably the approach I would use if I got really stuck on a puzzle like that.
Sounds like good advice for poker as well as for life, I would say. So I like that one. You do play other games besides poker on Twitch as well, Dungeons and Dragons, Final Fantasy. Your community, they're there again, not just to watch you play poker.
Yeah.
It's interesting, sort of the mix. Do you find that there's sort of like different people watching one game versus other game, or it's folks who really just, they're overlapping with you on the Venn diagram?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm really lucky that like especially the solid core of my community, we kind of almost watch anything that I stream, which is super nice. That's really nice to have. I would consider a lot of the people, especially the ones who hang out a lot in Discord, really good friends of mine. I do think that the majority of the people who watch my streams for the Final Fantasy, for the Dungeons and Dragons, were there because of the poker in the first place. I think the more I've streamed Final Fantasy, I may have picked up a few people who are just interested in watching that. But it is usually mostly people who are already in the community who also enjoy video games, who also enjoy that type of content, coming to hang out.
Sure. Well, obviously, enjoying yourself, having a good time, engaging with the audience, it's all part and parcel the whole experience. But any sort of goals or ambitions in the game playing video game realm, and obviously in the poker realm, that you'd like to say, I did that, I accomplished that, want to get there?
I think in terms of like the gaming and the gaming streams, it's almost like my downtime, that I just end up streaming anyway. I don't think I really have any ambitions to push that forward really really hard. The thing with poker streaming is that the streams tend to be really long hours, especially if you're doing well right in a tournament, because tournaments last a long time, and you have a delay which sort of hinders interaction with the chat and the audience quite a bit. So I kind of like the gaming streams just to relax and just to even give people an opportunity to chat like in real time. Sure. Because it feels much nicer to stream without delay. So that's kind of the purpose of those. And I think having a sort of one gaming stream or a week, something like that, makes me almost more excited to play poker as well. Just to have that one day break, and then you're like, okay, right, I'm ready to go again. In terms of poker, I would love to win an online title. I think that would be really cool. I probably had my best scoop and WCoop results last year. And final tabled a few things, but then this year it'd be really cool to actually get the win. I think that'd be nice. Thank you. And then I just want to be able to do this for as long as I can, pretty much, or set myself up to be able to have a long career in this industry. And I think, even though I have done well, I know people have been sort of talking a lot about the win in the Bahamas in particular, and the results last year. I think I'm very inconsistent when it comes to playing poker. I still don't think I'm particularly proficient at the game. I think I need to study a lot more, because that's something I'm guilty of not really doing much of over the past few years. And I kind of told myself at the end of last year, sort of beginning of this year, that I would invest a lot more time and resources into trying to actually get better at the game. And I think having done well last year was almost a motivator to like, okay, well, I know what I'm capable of now. Let's actually try and see how far we can get. So yeah, I'd like to actually really, really try to get better at the game and be a bit more consistent when I play, and try and focus real hard on playing well.
Do you see this as likely more of a self-study type of process, just going through like a training site on your own, or perhaps working with a coach one-on-one, or, finding the right group of people to, sort of commune with and, put your questions to each other? What would your ideal study process look like to get better that would be good for you?
Honestly, I think a bit of all three. Trying a bit of all three, because I have looked at getting some coaching, because I think, for me personally, I think I find it and for like how I learn, I think it's easier to be able to have a one-to-one conversation, be able to ask questions, be able to talk things out, is a much nicer style of learning for myself. But then you can't get one-to-one coaching sort of all day, every day, sure, really. So having
it's a big bill.
yeah, exactly. So having coaching maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, and then maybe, like you say, some sort of training course videos to supplement that, because then you can do your own self-study in your own time, and then ask questions once a week, and then supplement that with sort of playing and maybe doing some of your own hand reviews for hands that you aren't so sure of. And then when it comes to reviewing hands as well, I do think you can do that by yourself. I think that's great, like as a learning tool, but it never hurts to get a second opinion or two. So asking friends or players that you think are better than you to give yourself a different perspective on things, I think is good. So yeah, ideally a little bit of everything. I don't know if that's too ambitious or too much, but that's what I'm going to try.
Well, you said it, just to go back to the beginning of the show, I said, we were ships passing in the night, didn't get a chance to talk to each other much. We've been speaking for a good while now, and I have to say, just being very honest, a delight to speak with, very, truly, like, very social. And the reason I'm saying it also is like that clearly translates as well to the fact that you're, so highly engaged, and it's kind of like, this is your thing. It feels like you get strength from engaging with your community, and you said also, this is the type of thing you just want to do for as long as possible. I don't know that necessarily, I mean, this is an inherent human trait that you clearly have, extrovert type of thing, like, talking to people. It's great. I kind of hang out all day. That's fun. You made a career out of it, which is wonderful. But I don't know necessarily growing up, if like, I want to be a poker streamer someday, play video games. What did you think you were going to do growing up and in school?
I mean, I didn't really have, at least as a child, I didn't really have a set thing in mind about growing up and what this would be, like what I would want to do. At least when I got to high school and I was choosing sort of a degree to do, a university to go to, I was a massive Formula One fan. I used to follow the Formula One scene very religiously, and I would read all the articles, like follow all the gossip, and just watch every race. And I studied engineering at university, and at least at one point, some part of me would have loved to have been a Formula One engineer for sure.
Cool. Like in the pits with the whole deal.
Yeah, just like all of it, working on the car, designing the car, going to the races, because it looks like a lot of fun. I was really into F1 at the time, and and yeah, that's how things change.
Wow. Well, in a sense, though, there is sort of like a tie-in, because I know obviously PokerStars is big in the Formula One scene. Have you had a chance to engage with that at all?
A little bit. I went to an event last year, actually, for with the partnership with Red Bull, of course, and it was sort of an event that celebrated the year that they had, because obviously they had an incredibly successful season last year, and it was a celebration of their partnership. So I went there, and James had an interview with Christian Horner, and we there was a bunch of people there, part of Red Bull and their charity partner. As well, and yeah, we played like a little poker tournament with these people too. It was a lot of fun, but that's kind of the only experience I've had engaging with Red Bull. Hopefully, maybe there's going to be more exciting things coming from that partnership this year, and I'll be able to get involved.
Well, that's very cool. I don't know what those are. I have no idea, but it does lead very nicely into my next question, because I was going to say, and I'm going to say, poker is going to be massive in Las Vegas this summer. The World Series of Poker is going to return to the Strip. And you told me prior to this podcast, we were just talking on Twitter DMs, you've never been to Las Vegas before. And I'll also just sort of throw in, I'm sure you're aware that in November, there's a big Formula One event in Las Vegas as well. So I'm just kind of wondering, before we get into that, what has prevented you from going to Las Vegas until now? And, when do you see yourself sort of crossing that off the bucket list?
Well, I haven't really been around the poker industry for that long, really. So I've been doing this for about 4.5 years now, and then 2 of those years we were sort of in a pandemic as well, so not a lot of traveling.
We're aware, yes.
So I just haven't really had the opportunity, to be honest, to be able to go, especially when I first started out in poker. I was playing really small stakes and streaming, and that took a lot of my focus. So yeah, I would love to go to Vegas. I would love to try out the World Series one day. I'm not sure this year is going to be the one. I'm pretty busy in general with a lot of the live schedule, particularly from PokerStars. We'll see. I would love to, though, one day, maybe next year. Maybe next year's something that we aim for, and then we actually try and make it happen. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Once you put it on your list of these are the types of things I want to do, and then it's just about a way of finding a way to make it happen. Exactly. You mentioned, of course, you are a PokerStars ambassador. It's obviously a very big deal to many. It's a career highlight to work for one of the biggest companies in the business. What does it mean to you to be a PokerStars ambassador, and in what way do you feel it sort of shapes your view and also your growth as a poker player?
I mean, a lot of the time I still think it's kind of surreal that I get the chance to do so many cool things. Yeah, it means a lot to be an ambassador for PokerStars, and I think I'm very lucky to not just had the chance to join the team and work with them, but just the opportunities it provides me. Is more than I could have ever imagined doing in poker. Even just going to the Bahamas and like playing all these live events is really cool. Sorry, what was the other part of the question then?
Sort of like, how do you feel it sort of shapes your view and perhaps your growth as a poker player? Being
how it shapes my view. I think I do think I'm a little bit spoiled in some sense with everything that the PokerStars has to offer. I think it's like kind of funny, because obviously there are other sites that people play on, and there are other opportunities, other live events, and I'm going to sound really biased, but I do think PokerStars hosts like the best live events and things that you could have. And when I go to these events, I obviously know all the staff and all the people, and we do get a little bit spoiled being a part of Team Pro. So I it almost like taints your perspective of going to other live events and things like that, because you have these expectations that you've almost set for yourself because of what how well Stars is run.
Sure.
And how does it affect my growth? I don't think I would have made it anywhere near as far as I have if it weren't for their help. Just because of the amount of like time and effort they've put into doing things to kind of like try and help me grow the stream, trying to help me grow as a player. And they give you opportunities to, they've given me opportunities to play a lot higher, for example, during things like WCoop and Scoop, by giving me tickets to help play and kind of generate some extra hype on stream for that, and to travel to live events and to just meet a lot of different people. And with I think without that, I wouldn't have made it this far. Just like, even in so much as just giving me like the confidence to believe that I can do a lot of the things that I've done over the last year. So yeah, it's really it feels really surreal when you sort of say it all out loud. But yeah, I'm very lucky.
Cool. Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot though with this next question, but I do kind of have to ask. So many folks say, "Oh, I'd love to do this, love to do that." When you're in a position as you are to, because of being a sponsored pro with PokerStars, just by definition, have so much more of a wider platform. Obviously, that presents you with that much more opportunity. Given that opportunity, as you are, do you have any particular goals or ambitions in ways that you want to be using this platform in the near and longer term future?
That's that's like a really big question.
We'll give you a time bank on this one, and just remind everyone we've got 114 other great episodes here on the Cards Chat podcast that we'd love for you to listen to, including other PokerStars ambassadors. There's that number 43 with Greg Raymer, and just a whole bunch of other wonderful folks. It is the friendliest poker podcast in town, and I believe we got the countdown now. Your time bank is almost up, DJ Reggie. So, how would you like to answer that preview question?
Yeah, I think I do get somewhat aware of the position I'm in the platform I have a lot of the time. I think I know we spoke about the sort of women in poker angle before. That's something that I would love to be able to do more in. It's the sort of thing that I'm always very conscious of, that I always feel like I don't do enough in terms of trying to kind of help promote women in poker. I know PokerStars have sort of got this partnership now with Poker Power, which is cool, and they did the boot camp leading up to giving away a platinum pass in Prague. I really hope that's something that continues forward. In the Bahamas as well, we had 2 other women join the team, which is amazing. we had Frogi and Lally joining the team, which I think is great to have more representation on Team Pro as well. I do think PokerStars is putting a lot of effort into trying to do more in that aspect and growing the game for women in poker. So I hope I get the chance to be a bigger part of that over the next year. And then I guess. I mean, like yourself, I also love mixed games. I think even the last 6 months, I've somehow grown to love mixed games even more than before. And I just think it's sort of underrated, really, that not enough people know about it. And I don't think it's given enough of a chance in many cases. So trying to do more for mixed games and making people aware that they exist, and maybe even just like teaching them the rules and getting people involved would be really cool. But apart from that, I think I'm just in a position to showcase that poker can be. Poker's just kind of more than the game itself. At least that's what I think it is. Because to me, it's even more about the community and the social aspect of things than just the poker. I think in general society, there's this somewhat, I don't know, bad perception of what gambling and poker people are like, when from my personal experience, all the people that I've had a chance to meet, to get to know, have been some of the nicest, kindest, most generous people that I know. And I think the people themselves get a bad rep because of their profession. And I would love to somehow be able to showcase that poker is more than just the gambling and the money and and the game itself, that it's a super social game, that there's a lot of really good people in this community, and that it's that it's just like a friendlier place than people realize.
Well, that's an excellent answer, if I do say so. And I'd like to believe that pretty much anyone listening to this episode would certainly be nodding their heads in agreement with your assessment there. Just a couple more questions of mine before we move on to the community questions from the Cards Chat forum members. You are, as you said, in a very fortunate position to be a PokerStars ambassador. For a lot of aspiring players, that still very much is a goal, to be a sponsored pro, to be recognized, picked out of the crowd, and say, okay, we're gonna put our whole machine behind you. What sort of advice would you give to someone out there, who does have that as a goal? What sort of things should they be focused on to create themselves an opportunity that might happen for them?
That's very interesting. I think in this sort of day and age, a lot of the team pros and ambassadors that PokerStars have are very much sort of, I want to say, focus on like content creation and media. That doesn't necessarily have to mean streaming, for example. It could be sort of making videos on YouTube, or maybe even being very prolific on Instagram. I do think there's a big focus at the moment on that side of like content creation. So I think a lot of it is about putting yourself out there and making people aware of who you are, what you can do, what you're capable of, be it in terms of like poker skill or what you can offer. Because it's the sort of thing where the ambassadors, we have a really nice mix of ambassadors, I think, that very much cater to a wide variety of audiences. So it's sort of almost about thinking about what you could offer PokerStars as well, what you can do, and how much of a difference you can make, and the kind of audience that you could generate. But yeah, putting yourself out there, doing some form of content is probably like the main focus of a lot of things when it comes to being an ambassador right now.
So sounds good. And as far as like honing those sorts of skills, obviously some of them are inherent personality traits, but in poker, it's easy to say, oh, I'll just go ahead and get in the lab and study. How does one become better at doing those sorts of content creation sorts of things? Any types of resources that you've ever gone to and honed your skills at?
For me personally, no. When I first started streaming, I was very conscious of the need to give a good first impression and talk a lot. And try and engage a lot. So yeah, and speaking to people and things like that kind of comes pretty naturally to me. So it's not something I've necessarily had to work a lot on. But yeah, I think listening well is a good skill, especially when you're talking to other people. Listening well, being engaging, and being confident enough to kind of put yourself out there, and are things that you can sort of try and actively work on. But then a lot of that just comes with practice. The more you do it, the more comfortable you feel, and then the better you can get at it.
Nice. Well, speaking of folks who listen well and obviously also put themselves out there, now it's time to turn to the segment of the show where we turn to our Cards Chat community to see what questions they wanted to ask our guests.
Okay.
Guys, we have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forums for this. So as we announce who our future guests will be, please be sure to send in your questions. Mart1194, thank you very much for sending these questions in. GJ Mart wants to know, what is the live poker event that draws your attention the most, and why?
Oh, that draws my attention the most. I would probably say EPT Barcelona. It feels like the one event that I wouldn't want to miss. It was my first time going to EPT Barcelona last year, and it's just so, like, there's just so many people. Everyone goes to EPT Barcelona. It feels like I'd never kind of felt such a buzz before. I remember arriving into the casino for the first time. This was the first EPT that I attended, where I was actually going to play an event. So it was my first time actually playing an EPT. It was Barcelona last year, and I remember walking into the casino room, sort of picking up my casino card or something, and then I'm just walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden there's this like flood of people coming out. I'm thinking, what on earth is going on? And I just realized it was the main event break, and there was people everywhere. Like I felt like I was absolutely swarmed, and I had no idea what to do. But there was I don't know, there was just like a huge buzz in the air, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. And Barcelona is like such a great location as well. So yeah, I'd probably pick Barcelona just because of the atmosphere of the event, and the fact that so many people there. It's also an incredibly social event as well. So yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I wouldn't want to miss that this year.
Good pick. I like it. Mart also wants to know, Mart 1194, which video game do you like the most?
Do I like the most? I've played so many over the years. I know you mentioned it earlier, but I do love the Final Fantasy franchise as a whole. I've played all the games from 7 through to 15, bar the 11, which was an MMO. And yeah, it's a series that I grew up with as a child. And I'll probably continue to play every single Final Fantasy that gets released as long as they keep doing them. I love the fantasy side of things. I love the story and the game mechanics. I do play most of these games because I think the story is incredibly engaging and just captivates you quite easily. So I would probably go with that as a series as a whole.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the last one from Mart 1194. This is the rare question that I have to admit I don't exactly understand. So I hope I get this right. What is the special reason for Dragos?
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
Does he mean dragons in general?
Perhaps.
Because I basically have a dragon as like my mascot of the stream, so maybe it's like a little bit of a typo. That's what I'm gonna guess.
Okay. Well, the E and the N are a little far apart on the keyboard, so maybe. But isn't the dragon also on the Welsh flag? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, exactly. So
nice.
When I first started streaming, it's really exciting when you get your first emote. So on Twitch, you obviously have a lot of emotes. They're a big deal and a big part of like the community and the ecosystem when it comes to streaming on Twitch. And when you get your first emote or your first few emotes, it's really exciting. You're like, oh man, what should I make my first emote? And I had no idea what to do. And because a lot of the time you just lean on different characteristics of you as a person or personality. And I like dragons anyway because of the whole sort of fantasy leaning thing. And then there's a dragon on the Welsh flag. So it's like, okay, well, let's just make a dragon emote to be the first one. And It's sort of followed through the rest of my stream and channel, being kind of like a focus that it's a mascot. And I don't know if it's just because of the stream or because I just kind of love dragons more now than I did before. But I have almost like a collection of all these like little dragon related things around my room. So I've got like this little like baby dragon.
That's a good card protector. I like that.
Yeah, and then I've got like another dragon model here and like different sort of pieces of dragon related artwork around the room now, which is nice. I like it. I like having that as a thing. I think it's kind of cool.
Nice. I like it. Very coart. Thank you. And thanks again, Mart 1194, for submitting those. On to the next one. It's Fast One. Thank you very much. I don't think that's a name I've seen before. So thank you very much, Fast One, for sending in your questions for GJ Reggie. GJ Fast One wants to know, what variant of poker do you enjoy the most and why?
What variant I enjoy the most of the mixed games? I really like Triple Draw or Deuce to Seven. I think is a lot of fun. I still play more Hold'em than anything else, and I obviously love that as well. But of the mix, I think the draw games are really fun.
Okay. Any particular reason?
I just think I don't know. It feels like almost such a complete deviation from how you think Hold'em should work. That it always makes it more interesting because you have to think in like so many other different ways. That's how I feel anyway. Nice.
I like it because in Hold'em, or in like flop games or stud games, the cards you have, those are the cards you're getting. That's it. Like, It's like, okay, at least I have another chance to get different cards. That's true. These cards.
Yeah.
Another one from Fast One. Have you found a way, or perhaps what's your best way to deal with bad beats that enables you to keep on playing your game? In other words, not to tilt.
Um, I well, people ask me this quite a lot actually, because a lot of people seem to tell me on stream that I mean, you never tilt, you never get angry. Like, how do you do it? And this is going to sound terrible, but I have a really like bad memory for like remembering poker hands.
Huh.
So I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, really, but it's almost like once the hand is over and it's happened, I've sort of like forget about it very, very, very quickly. So it's easy for me to like not dwell on the fact that it was a bad beat or that's what's happened. And I don't know if it's sort of the nature of multi-tabling or streaming that you've got a lot of other things to focus on. But once I'm all in, that's kind of like it's so once I've sort of put all the chips in the middle and whatever happens, I don't tend to necessarily think too much about exactly which way the result went, because all the decisions that I wanted to make up until that point have already happened, and the result is sort of the result as it is. I know it's hard for a lot of people to sort of discount the fact that they've just been bad beat, and especially when you're like a little bit emotionally invested, of course, because you want to win.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not a very good answer, because I don't think that's something you could practice to kind of forget about what happened.
But on the other hand, I do think it's a very healthy outlook. You know, like if you can go ahead and sort of reframe your approach to poker in that way, like tilt almost becomes a non-issue. You know, so like that's really like I don't know, I don't think that's a bad answer at all. Honestly, I really like to reframe that. Someone actually once told me, I believe it was Elliot Lazar. He says, once you've bought into the tournament, it doesn't matter how much money anyone else has. You've made that decision. The money's gone. Yeah. Just play with the chips. So it kind of like resonates with what you had said. I like that. One more from Fast One. What is your favorite board game, GJ?
My favorite board game? Well, at the moment, I've been playing a lot of backgammon. I was taught how to play backgammon in Prague. One of my friends, he bought a backgammon set there with him and was teaching everyone how to play, and I've become a little bit obsessed with it. So yeah, right now I would definitely have to say backgammon.
Okay, fair. Double sixes. We got Acid Burn FX as our next question asker. We've got a few, so we'll try to get through them quickly. I like that. Let's always ask creative questions. What is the one thing you wish could exist but doesn't at the moment, and why? Great question. Thank you, Acid Burn FX.
One thing that I wish that I guess this doesn't have to be related to poker.
No, it does not.
In any way. This is I think with all like the traveling that I've been doing for live events and things recently, it like something like teleportation would come in really handy. Nice. I think would be kind of nice, because I think my sort of least favorite part of going to live events and things is the like physical traveling from destinations to destinations.
That's fair. Yeah, security lines are not always so fun. That's true.
Yeah, and a lot of time it just takes a long time. It would be great if I could just be here and then be there. So like that's what I'm gonna go with.
Good answer. Good answer. I like that. Another one from Acid Burn FX. What celebrity would you most like to switch lives with, and why? Trying to change gears like we do at the poker table. Good questions here.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I don't really like follow a lot of sort of famous people in celebrity culture and things. I'm really terrible when it comes to films and TV and knowing
perhaps
who
in
actors.
The F1 world, though.
In the F1 world, let me think. I don't really know. It's so hard to think of people that I would be curious to see the lifestyle. The F1 world does seem like kind of crazy at the moment. like that lifestyle. I don't know. This is really hard.
That's fine. Well, to me, it's an indication you're very happy being yourself and with your own life. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. We will move on to Crystals. Crystals, who we actually interviewed, I believe it was episode number 112,
Okay.
I think. Chris Robinson, who very kindly always submits some questions. Can you describe the experience playing poker in the Bahamas, including awarding a platinum pass to Elizabeth Bartlett? Were you nervous before making that presentation?
The Bahamas, it was really great in terms of playing. I think particularly because of the PSPC and all the hype surrounding that was great. And I was in the room, when it was announced, when Bruce Buffer was on the microphone and kicked off the whole thing, and just the way everyone like cheered and just started. There was this like amazing atmosphere in the air that you could feel that everyone was like, wow, this is actually happening. So it was a really great experience playing in the Bahamas. I had a lot of fun doing so. In terms of the platinum pass for Elizabeth, it's kind of funny. I was playing the PSPC at the time, and I got a message on my phone asking if I could come to the staff room during my break. So I actually had no idea what was going on at this point. I was just, I was just playing the PSPC. So I went during my break to the staff room, and they sort of told me what their plan was at this point. They were like, okay, you know what? We'd really love to give Elizabeth a platinum pass. I know you two are playing heads up later. I think it'd be a great story if she kind of comes play. And they were trying to get in touch with her at this point. So I don't think she knew she was going to get a platinum pass yet.
Oh, that's
so cool. They were trying to get in touch with her, trying to reach out to her and they wanted it to be a surprise, of course. So yeah, I think it got to the point where they managed to get a hold of her, but because but she didn't sort of seem that keen to come down to the poker room because busy doing something else, whether that was on the beach or whatever. So eventually I think they actually had to sort of tell her that they were going to be awarding her a platinum pass. At which point she was going kind of crazy.
Sure, naturally.
And then I don't think it was up until the break after that actually that I physically awarded the pass to her, that she sort of, I don't know, made her way down. And it was just really nice because obviously I'd spent all day playing with Elizabeth the day before. So I didn't really need to prep for it, but I think it was just a really nice moment for me to be able to share that with her, and knowing that we were going to play for a trophy later that day as well. I know she made through day one, so I was really happy for her. And yeah, to be able to give someone an opportunity like that it's always going to feel pretty special.
It's always amazing to see the delight on someone's face. We got two more question askers to get through. BLK Money 12, another new name. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. And then we'll be wrapping this up. BLK Money 12 asks GJ, you made, if I recall, 3 or 4 final tables in major events, whether they were online or live from last year's. How did those experiences help you this year win the PCA women's event?
So Money BLK is actually a name I know from Stream, which is kind of cool.
Oh wow, there you go. Okay.
And I think they definitely helped in the PCA. I think probably more so the 8-game final table in some ways than necessarily the online FTs, just because playing live does feel a lot different to playing online, and having had like a final table experience live, I think the more you do something, the more relaxed you feel, the more confident you feel. So the fact that this wasn't my first time at a live FT, I think helped. I just in general, the experiences from previous just give you a little bit more confidence. Like, you're like, I've done this before, I've been here before, I can do it again. Let's get the win this time. So I think in terms of confidence, I think that's the biggest thing that it helps with. And then after that, it's just trying to remember, how to play the cards right.
Right. Very good. Okay, cool. And our last one, Love Poker, LUVE Poker. has a couple for you. I really like these questions. That's why I put Love Poker's questions last. It's good notes on which to end off. One that I forgot to ask myself. I see you're ambassador for PokerStars. That's so cool. How did that opportunity come about in the first place?
That was pretty much just through streaming. How PokerStars approached me. So there was a competition a while back, a streaming competition called the Platinum Pass Adventure, which was run by PokerStars in conjunction with Jason Somerville and Run It Up. So they were awarding a platinum pass for the first Bahamas to what they sort of called the next great poker Twitch streamer. And I decided to enter the competition because I thought I had just kind of dabbled with the idea of maybe trying streaming before. And I thought, well, if I'm not going to try it to try and win a platinum pass, then I'm sort of never going to try streaming. I entered that competition, and I think that's sort of when PokerStars first... I sort of first got on the radar, just because just through that the exposure that competition got me. And then once that was over, like I didn't win or anything, but I carried on streaming. We kept going because we had a lot of fun with it. PokerStars reached out to myself and asked if I would be interested in joining the team.
Cool, great story. It's always good to know the origin story. And our last one. This is like, again, I feel like this could have some far-reaching impact beyond just this question. Love Poker says, my niece is falling in love with poker and she wants to play more when she is older. Yes, that's her uncle's fault. What advice would you give to the young women who are looking to get more involved in the game?
I think in terms of getting involved in the game, it's a lot of it is kind of, if you love the game, it's a great opportunity to kind of study more about the game, try and improve your skills at the game. And then I think making sure that you're confident at the table when you're playing as well, because it's I don't know how you practice that, but yeah, if you do really love the game, I would like try and keep practicing at it. Try and build your confidence in playing the game. Try and build your confidence in an environment where there's going to be, a lot of other people playing. And then the last one would just be to find other people who also love the game as well, be it other women or other friends, because having like a support system like that with friends and community or something, being able to be involved in that, I think it kind of keeps you around for longer, makes you love the game a little bit more because of all the other people that you know in it. So if you can find people to kind of go on that journey with, do play and learn and love poker like together, I think you'll be in good company.
For sure, and so long as you can maintain that love for the game, you'll be in poker for a very, very long time. That's the beauty. You love the game gives its love right back to you. Folks, thank you so much for sending in questions to GJ Reggie. Again, a friendly reminder to our Cards Chat community. We'd love to see you submit your questions for our future podcast guests in the dedicated thread on the forums. Guys, please give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you like the show. GJ, before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Cards Chat audience?
No, I've had a great time. It's really great to finally meet and chat to yourself, Robbie.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll see you at the mixed games again soon.
Heads up, I hope, for the Spady.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be really special, and I definitely agree. This has been a delight. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you who tuned in once again to another episode of the Cards Chat podcast. I'm Robbie Straczynski. You can find me and follow me on Twitter at CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day. Cards Chat, the friendliest poker podcast in town from the world's #1 poker community.